Tonight's episode of Legacy Battle is brought to you by Atlas Benefits.
Atlas Benefits has solutions for your insurance needs. Atlas Benefits can help you obtain Medicare, health, or life insurance and employee benefits. You can find them on the web at www.atlasbenefits.com.
Or you can contact Rob Ducey or Roy Smith at 727-600-2892 and mention Legacy Battle Podcast. Atlas Benefits has all the solutions for your insurance needs. Enjoy the show. This is Legacy Battle coming at you on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everything you can think of. You want to sponsor this? Hit us up in the comments section on the Facebook group or on YouTube. I am Michael Adams here, creator of Legacy Battle. Joining me tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Penn State Collegiate All-Star, Kevin Adams, Ball State athlete, Paul Havicott. And we're also joined tonight by a four-time All-American from Trinity University, where she won the Collegiate Player of the Year award in 1986. She has 191 WTA singles wins and 193 double wins with 3 career single titles. She's 3-1 in career finals, only losing to Martina. No shame in that. Greatest player ever, probably. And she's now the head tennis coach at Hollins University. And she's a Women's Collegiate Hall of Famer. So, ladies and gentlemen, Gretchen Rush. Thank you, Gretchen, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, Michael.
She has, like, the greatest background ever. That is live background, not
this
like
is
us.
Real. I'm in they call it the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's one of the most beautiful places in America, for sure.
Excellent. Well, we're going to have a Q&A after tonight's debate with Gretchen about her career, of course. But tonight's debate is a big topic. It's the greatest tennis moment of all time. We've narrowed it down to what we felt were our top 4, and then we'll have 4 honorable mentions after that. We're going to start tonight with Borg versus McEnroe at Wimbledon.
Right, the 1980 Wimbledon final, Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe. So Borg, he was from Sweden, and he had an ice-cold persona. He was emotionless at times, just like a quiet assassin. He bested Rod Laver's singles wins record. He won Wimbledon 4 times and was going for his 5th consecutive Wimbledon win. He was loved by the ladies, good-looking guy, and he was wildly popular. So Johnny Mac, he was pretty much the polar opposite of Borg. He's from New York. He was fiery. He was a loose cannon. He argued with the refs. He wore his emotions on his sleeve, standoffish. He was a clear underdog going into this match, and many didn't care for his type of wild antics. So set 1, Johnny Mac was nearly flawless, and he ended up beating the champ 6-1 in the first set. So Borg was a little bit shell-shocked. And Johnny Mac, he made him work in the second set as well. But Borg was able to win 7-5. Set 3, Borg seemed to be back into his groove, back to his championship pedigree, and he coasted to a 6-3 win. So it was kind of looking like, okay, maybe Johnny Mac sort of did his thing, but now Borg's in control. And then we had set 4, which is arguably the greatest single set in tennis history. Borg had championship point many times, but Johnny Mac just kept fighting back, refused to quit, refused to give in, and there was a 34-point tiebreaker round. So it ended up 18-16 that Johnny Mac finally won. So then that pushed it to a set 5. And after falling down 40-15, Borg won 19 straight points. Johnny Mack, he battled back to force extra games, but Borg ultimately won 8-6 in set 5, taking the match. The match ended up lasting 3 hours and 53 minutes, so almost 4 hours. And it was clearly just one for the ages. There was sort of a lot of folklore about this match because Borg himself admitted years later that people came up to him and said, they couldn't remember if he even won the match or lost the match because people remember that great fourth set and how Johnny Mack was able to pull off the win in that thicker set. But people forget that Borg was actually the one that won the match, and he got his 5 straight Wimbledon wins.
This was a great rivalry, so much so that we featured it in a prior show. Check it out in the archives. Jonathan Stark was on that show. Gretchen, this match, it meant so much to tennis. It was like a passing of the torch almost for the men's. So I'm sure you saw it, or you at least seen it after the fact. I know it's before your time, but what were your thoughts on it?
Sure. Actually, did you say it was 1980 or 1982?
1980, yeah.
80. Well, I got to play Junior Wimbledon. I thought it was 1982 when I thought it was Borg and McEnroe were playing. We were playing in the junior final out on the outside court. And then I know it was McEnroe, and they were playing at the same time, and the crowd was roaring, and they went and played it forever and ever and ever. And I know after one of those matches, Borg retired after that.
That's right. Yeah, it was after this match. Yeah. There was
he retired after this one. Yeah. So anyway, it's Borg, as you said, Borg was the icon of that era, and it really was a passing of the torch. As we say, we thought McEnroe won that match. I would have, if you asked me to bet, I would have said McEnroe won that match. But we remember that set and just the clash of the styles. Borg was the baseliner, and McEnroe was just coming up to the net and emotional and swearing and yelling at the umpires, and Borg was just stoic, a stoic Swede. So it was a fantastic rivalry, as you said, and I do think it was sort of the modern era of tennis that McEnroe brought in, and just was exciting to be a part of that. I was learning to play tennis in the 70s, and in America that was we went all the way down in Pittsburgh. All the courts were full. People were playing tennis. We used to go down to the Mount Lebanon trestle courts and wait for an hour or two to get a court. That's how many people were playing tennis in America at that point. So I think Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, they came in after Stan Smith and Arthur Ashe and just had this brash, pedal to the metal mentality about tennis. And I think it just captured the attention of the American public. So.
Kevin, you're known for wearing your emotions on your sleeve out there when playing sports. You get a little animated and throw some language out there. What are your thoughts on McEnroe and how he would act a lot out there? You think that was acceptable because he's just throwing it all out there, or should he calm his jets a little bit?
Well, I think that's what kind of actually helped him get noticed. You remember that fiery character. He stands out. He was a little bit younger though, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he had some maturing to do, and it shows the fire in the drive that he had. He wanted to win. He wanted to perform well in every match that he played. He was a great tennis player. I know, these guys were friends with each other. I think one of them appeared in their wedding or something. Didn't one of them attend as best man or groomsman in their wedding? So they were friends off the court. So even, when he would have that attitude on the court, it wasn't, necessarily towards Borg. But no, I mean, you get your emotions get involved. You want to win. You do everything that you can to win. If a call doesn't go your way and it should have went your way, of course you're gonna say something that's unfavorable. I mean, it's not a good role model, but it happens, especially in other physical contact sports. I couldn't imagine him in hockey or football. The stuff that he would probably be saying. Oh my goodness! But he is a great tennis player, regardless. So whether he said something or he didn't say anything, he was a great player.
Well, to your point, Kevin, I think part of it is also the time period that it happened. I mean, nowadays we see more players like McEnroe, in all sports. But back in 40 years ago, that was sort of more of a taboo kind of thing. That was like on the edge of bad sportsmanship. And so that's kind of what made it a little bit more memorable, maybe.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
It was definitely bad sports. It was definitely bad sportsmanship. And at Wimbledon at that point, the balls were white. You had to wear white clothes, and it was stiff upper lip. There was nothing like John McEnroe. I don't think there has ever been anybody like him. He just played with so much passion, and he really was uncontrollable. So, but I think that's what turned people on to tennis. It was so authentic, and he was real, and that's kind of a nice change from watching people just walk back and forth and hit tennis balls. It's like a volcano. You didn't know if he was going to erupt, and it's like watching a hockey game and a fight breaks out, right? People love that, and it's just the passion of the game. So he really did that. Still does it. I think he got defaulted in a senior match the other day. So
nice.
Like 60, 65, 70 years old, and he's still getting in trouble. So
all right, let's move on to the battle of the sexes.
Oh, my favorite, the mother of modern sports, Billie Jean King. If Gretchen thinks that McEnroe's behavior was a little bit crazy, what about Bobby Riggs? Billie Jean King, she started actually as a softball player. I thought that was interesting because her parents ended up encouraging her to play tennis for the reason of it was more ladylike. And if that's not a perfect table setting to something like this, on September, this has got to be one of the greatest sports stories ever. On September 20th, 1973, in a highly publicized battle of the sexes tennis match, Billie Jean King, who was 29 at the time, she's born November 22nd, 1943, Long Beach out of California. She beats Bobby Riggs, who was 55 at the time, former number one ranked men's tennis player. He was born 225, 1918. Out of Lincoln Heights, Louisiana. And the thing about this guy was he's a self-proclaimed male chauvinist that boasted all over the place. Anybody who would interview him, anybody who listened, that women were inferior, they couldn't handle the pressure of the game, and that even at that age, he could beat any female player. I don't know how you couldn't like this story. So later on, they make a movie about this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was about 3-4 years ago with Steve Carell. But at the time that this happened in real time, it was a huge media event, over 30,000 spectators at the Houston Astrodome and about another 50 million on TV. Billie Jean King made a Cleopatra-style entrance on a gold litter carried by men dressed as ancient slaves. I think Mike's got a poster of this in his bedroom over his bed. But while Riggs arrived in a rickshaw, he was pulled by female models, and I think that's the one Kevin's got, actually. So legendary sportscaster Howard Cosell called the match, and then it goes like this. King beats Riggs 6-4, 6-3, and 6-3. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is it not only helped legitimize women's professional tennis and female athletes, but it was seen as a victory in like the women's rights movement in general. I think she forced the conversation to happen before maybe America was even ready to have a conversation like this. Her career, it wasn't a fluke either. I mean, she compiles over 20 Wimbledon victories before she's done in singles, doubles, and mixed doubles. In 1972, she became the first woman to be chosen for Sports Illustrated Spokesperson of the Year. And in 73, she became the first president of the Women's Tennis Association. And then I think one of the most important things, too, that we're still talking about today is in 1971, she became the first female athlete to earn more than $100,000 in prize money in a single season. However, that's like there was part of significant pay disparities that were existing, and so she fought for that and she lobbied for change. And so in 1973, the U.S. Open became the first major tennis tournament to hand out the same prize money, whether you're male or female. So that.
You're stealing my info, Paul. I got the WTT. Just saying.
Hey, man, I'm passionate about Billie Jean King, and that's the winner.
So Gretchen, as a young woman growing up, I'm sure you saw what was going on with this. What were your thoughts as a young woman in the tennis field, seeing?
Well, tell me again the date, because I was born in '64. Was it 71?
73 is when the match. 73. She started, I think, in 63, but in 73 is when the match was. Yeah.
So yeah, I remember watching the match. I was 9, but I did not play tennis. I hadn't even started playing tennis, but I remember, those are the TVs were black and white and they were little. And I remember, going up and watching it. And just because I love sports and, obviously growing up in Pittsburgh, it's impossible not to love sports and the Steelers and watch, the Sunday wide world of sports. So it was definitely a game changer. And then to be in tennis and to, I've gotten to play against Billie Jean King. I've played world team tennis. I've been around her several times. I've gotten to give speeches with her, for me, in women's tennis and being a women athlete, it's a complete game changer. It's a culture changer, just as far as not just professional sports, but Title IX and, now being a college coach. And, none of that would have been possible without that match. And I do agree. It was a little bit she was before her time. In the 70s, women weren't able to have credit cards. They weren't able to have mortgages. Very few women drove. Very few women had jobs outside the home. It was, less than 50% at that point. So it was totally a culture shock. And this idea of women's lib and Bobby being a male chauvinist pig. I just think it was just made for TV. He was just larger than life, just like John McEnroe. And, I'm so grateful for Billy to have the courage to play him because he was a very, very good tennis player. He had won Wimbledon in all 3 events, singles, doubles, and mixed doubles. And she had the courage to do it. And I don't think our world would be the same. So without that match, without her.
And Paul, you mentioned the movie. Steve Carell did a great job playing Bobby Riggs. I thought I was very impressed with that. But Brian, I want to ask you about Bobby Riggs here. So there's 2 books out there about Bobby Riggs, and I don't agree with anything he said. Let me throw that out there. But there is a side of the story, if you read these books about him, that says this was a show. This was a way for him to make money, him to stay popular, him to play the wrestling heel, basically.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think he definitely played it up. He kind of played the villain, played the heel, like you said, to make it worse. I mean, maybe there was maybe some of that was rooted in how he really felt, but I don't think it was really to that kind of extreme. But yeah, when that Battle of the Sexes thing happened, you really had to have him be that villain in order to sort of push this new idea that was coming along about women being able to do anything that men could do.
And Gretchen, after the massacre match against Margaret Court, I mean, how important was it for Billy to get the win?
Oh, it was, and she said, there's a very, very tiny book that I highly recommend for tennis players or young women or just sports fanatics. It's called Pressures of Privilege, and it's basically Billy takes her life lessons, and it goes through the history of the match. And, she thought long and hard about it. And I think in the movie, it has Bobby Riggs like showing up at her hotel room, knocking on the door, play me, or calling her in the middle of the night, you got to play me. She thought about it long and hard because she knew if she lost, it would set women back. So I think, again, she just took it on. She took that pressure and it was a game changer for women, and it's certainly a game changer for women's tennis. But one of the things she says in that book that I wanted to bring up, I know there's lots of theories that, Bobby threw the match, or he was betting against himself, or he was betting, he bet both ways. But in the match, that Billie Jean said when they shook hands, Bobby said, "I underestimated you." And I think that, to me, that tells me he thought he was going to win the whole time. He just in his mind, his confidence and his, he just, whether he believed all of his show or not, I don't know, but he just didn't think he would lose to Billie. So, I mean, him saying that to her face in front of all those people, I underestimated you. And I think he did. Her resolve, and she trained, and he was out there promoting, and I think he lost sight of that it was actually a match. It wasn't just a show. So.
All right, let's go back to Wimbledon. This time, Federer versus Nadal.
2008. This rivalry here basically, I think, helped keep tennis at its peak. It's the new Borg and McEnroe type rivalry. At the time, Federer was top ranked seat against Nadal, who was second ranked. This match at the time ended up being the longest match in finals history at Wimbledon. It was 4 hours and 48 minutes. When it ended, Nadal, came out on top, defeated Federer 6-4, 6-4. Then Federer went 7-6, 7-6, and then it ended 9-7 in Nadal's favor. But this is one of the greatest tennis matches ever. This rivalry is one of the greatest rivalries in the history of tennis. These two players had won 14 of the last 16 Grand Slam titles at that time. This was the third consecutive year for these two to face off in the finals of Wimbledon. Federer had won the previous two matchups, and he had won the last 5 years going into this match. Nadal had just won the French Open, and it's very rare that someone wins the French Open and the Wimbledon back-to-back because they're only about a month apart, and they're two different type of surfaces, so it's hard to make that transition so quickly. So to win the French Open in the same year, like I said, it's very rare, and for Nadal to do that, that's actually a pretty good achievement. So this match was really hyped. It actually got delayed to start. It actually started 30 minutes late because there was some rain going on, and actually kept going on throughout the match. There's a couple delays. Nadal had won the first 2 sets, and it almost looked like he was going to shut out Federer in this match. And then a rain delay happened in the third set. Federer was winning that set. He actually ended up winning the next 2 to send it into the tiebreaker. Now, the final tiebreaker, this is the greatest tiebreaker in the history of tennis. Nadal went up 5-2. He could have won on either of his next 2 serves, but he double faulted and he backhanded one into the net. Federer ended up battling back, made it 7-7. Nadal had hit a forehand down the line past Roger, setting up another championship point. Federer responded with a backhander down the line. 2 of the greatest shots of the tournament happened in this tiebreaker. Another rain delay would happen. When they came back, it was actually starting to get dark. It was actually possibly going to move the match to the next day. But when they came back, Federer was 2 points away from claiming his 6th straight victory. Nadal held the serve, though, and ended up serving out the match, ended up winning that tiebreaker 9-7. This was the first Wimbledon victory for him in 5th Grand Slam singles title for Nadal. This was the longest match, like I had said, for a Wimbledon final at the time. Federer was tied with Borg for 5 consecutive titles going into this match. He actually would have passed him and took that record as his own. This ended Federer's 41 match win streak at Wimbledon. That's insane. This made Nadal one of only 3 men to win the French Open and Wimbledon in the same year. 2 months later, Nadal ended up overtaking Federer in the rankings, which Federer had actually held the number 1 ranking for 237 consecutive weeks up to that point. So this match had 2 of the greatest players, one of the greatest rivalries, one of the greatest matches in Wimbledon history. This has got to be one of the best moments in tennis history.
So, Gretchen, I understand you were there. So
I don't know. I don't know if I was there.
Oh, you don't? Well, what are you thinking about that match? Like, I mean, just back and forth.
It's funny. I love you guys. First of all, I love your accent when you say tournament, because I say that occasionally, and people are from Pittsburgh or Baltimore when they say it like that. But and this is why I'm going to have to. I don't know if I get to vote or we arm wrestle for who gets the greatest title here. But
we'll vote.
We vote. Okay. I remember exactly where I was when I was watching the Billie Jean King match, and when we were talking earlier, one of the perks of getting to play in senior Wimbledon is you get to go. You're still there at the end of the tournament, and you get in a lottery. And I got to go watch some of these matches, but I can't remember if I saw that match. As he was talking about the rain delays, it came back to me. But I mean, to think that they played for 5 hours, that's like an Ironman, and it's, I've heard they run 20, 30 miles in a match, and then have to do it, 2 days, they have a day off between the semis, but to do it back to back. And like you're saying, to come back after the French Open, it's just the physical demands are just incredible, the way these guys play. But I do remember those shots that he was talking about in the tiebreaker. They're just phenomenal. And I was talking to one of my tennis friends about the French Open just finished up this weekend, and it's like watching Nintendo. It's like it's not even real people doing the things that these guys can do now. So, the one thing I really enjoy about getting to watch them in person and on TV is just how classy they are. And when they play, they have so much respect for each other and so much respect for the game. Like talked about the opposite of McEnroe, they will occasionally scream in passion. I think that's why Nadal is so revered, is he plays with so much passion. I think people enjoy that, but it's never directed at anyone else. It's never directed at his opponent or a linesman or someone in the crowd that's making noise that would drive McEnroe crazy. He's just within himself, just the passion. And I think he's, just so beloved for his passion, and that way he plays the game. And Federer, on the other hand, just a little bit more Borg-like, just stoic and reserved and within himself, but just plays with so much beauty. I think it really is a classic rivalry, and just beloved by fans. I don't think, anybody wanted to see anyone lose that match.
Paul, we talked about Borg, McEnroe being a passing of the torch. Was this a passing of the torch as well to Nadal, or has Federer just hung on so long that the torch is still his? I mean, I know Djokovic is in there now as well, but, what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's a topic that fans of each could argue on each's behalf. I remember watching that in real time on TV. I only got halfway, I started halfway through, and I saw the tiebreaker, and it was just one of those things where you knew that you were watching something very special. And then when I just cracked up the rain delays, the rain in general, the drama of it. And you're right, Roger is kind of stuck around. I think Gretchen mentioned the total antithesis of the prior match that Brian argued, because these two are so polished. And I think that they're both very, very equal and very, very well representative of tennis.
I agree. It's been going on for, it feels like 15 years, maybe.
Yeah. We kind of thought back then that Roger, that was 2008, and we thought Roger might hang it up, and he's still dabbling in it. I mean, isn't he in his 40s? I think he's my age. Isn't he 43, 42?
Yeah, he's very particular about when he plays, and he plays the matches he thinks he can win, and the surfaces. And but back to your question, Michael, I don't think there really has been a passing of the torch. I think maybe when Federer beat Sampras, at the Wimbledon, that was a really long match. But that was a passing of the torch to Federer. But the Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, those three, they've just been trading back and forth for the last 15, 20 years. They're just incredible, the level that they've brought each other to. It's incredible.
Let's move on to our final one of the night before we get to our honorable mentions, and that is going to be Billie Jean King starting the WTT. So for those of you that don't know, it's World Team Tennis, and our very own Gretchen Rush has played in this league, so she'll have something to say about it. But so as Paul mentioned a little bit earlier, Billie Jean, she campaigned for years for equal pay for women. She wanted them to get the same as the men. So her and her husband, Larry King, not the CNN Larry King, different Larry King, they came up with the idea basically of a nine-player women's group. And then they also had people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were part of this that brought in 9 men to come play. And what it was is you got males and females playing together on the same team against another male and female. So this was all in a way to make her point of getting that equal pay. I know Paul had mentioned the U.S. Open thing. I was going to bring that up too, that, you know, she said she wasn't going to play after she won the U.S. Open the following year if they weren't going to give equal pay. So, but so like I said, I mean, the WTTV was based on gender equality. It's been going on for 45 years now. That's a pretty long time. Billie and her husband then they use their savings to get that first event to happen, so their own money, and it's now recognized as the leader in team tennis competition. So if you've ever seen the matches, it's basically, you know, Billie Jean says it's a philosophy of her life in action. Men and women competing together on a team of both genders, making equal contributions to the result. So this is kind of her way of sticking it to the WTA, taking some of the money away. I know they had like Winston cigarettes sponsoring them. You know, smoking in the 70s was a lot different than what smoking is today. So, but you know, she's considered the queen of women's tennis. So you got to kind of look at it too, though, from this standpoint. 45 years later, where are we at now? I mean, I've done some research, and women in the top 100 rankings are only getting 80 cents on the dollar compared to men of the same rank in the top 100. And that's basically $120,000 difference if you look at it. And then some tournaments, it's worse. It's only 63 cents on the dollar, like the Western and Southern Opens. So if you go back to 2016, Federer got $731,000 for winning that tournament, defending his championship. Serena, defending her championship, only got $495,000. So we still today don't have the equal pay, which was basically the intent. It's gotten a lot better. It still has a ways to go, especially if you look at the money brought in, at least in tennis. Women's tennis brings in as much money as men's tennis for the most part. It's not like the big separation you see in the WNBA or something like that, or the LPGA and the PGA, the money differences. So they should receive equal pay. She fought for it. This was her wish, her lifelong goal, and she's still fighting today for it. We mentioned earlier she's in her 70s. So, you know, creating this league was a big step forward to getting that equality gap closer. So, Gretchen, you played in the league. Tell us about it, and what did it mean to you to play in that?
Well, it's such a loaded, you know, when you say the word Billie Jean King, it's, you know, it brings up a lot of memories. And one thing that came to mind was that, you know, we had in Pittsburgh, we had the Pittsburgh Triangles. I don't know if you guys are too young to know about that, but that was in the 70s. And we had a franchise in Pittsburgh. Peggy Michael and Yvonne Goolagong, Vitas Gerulaitis, you know, these were my heroes. And Billie brought that level of tennis to Pittsburgh for us to watch. And that was very instrumental in me, you know, seeing there's a bigger world outside of Pittsburgh, that tennis can take you all over the world. And I was blessed to be able to see the world through a game. But my dad actually had lassoed a program from the Billie Jean versus Bobby Riggs match, and he knew all the cops down at the Civic Arena from going to watch hockey games, and he got Billie's autograph for me on a program from the match. And just to be able, as a young tennis player, to see Billie Jean King play tennis, and that's what she did. She took tennis, which had sort of been this elite, you know, at the Forest Hills Country Club and all these fancy places where you had to wear white, into arenas where men and women were playing together. I mean, it was just like, again, so far ahead of her time. One of the things that Billie has talked about, which she hasn't seen come into fruition, which I wish she would be able to do, was probably about 20 years ago. I heard her talking about how she wanted collegiate tennis to have the world team tennis format where men and women were playing together. And I think that was sort of her vision all along, you know, to have men and women be equal. You know, I don't think she was ever a women's liber per se, but that men and women are of equal value. That's how she was brought up, and that's just how she saw the world. And I think that was her vision of world team tennis. And I would just love to see it happen, as she's still with us, that she can make that happen in collegiate tennis. I just think it would be incredible to have men and women competing for our colleges. And it would be an exciting spectator event. And I think the matches would be really, really popular, and maybe a little resurgence of tennis back to those times in the 70s. So we'll see if she can pull that rabbit out of her hat before she passes on.
Brian, we've seen women now starting to integrate into the coaching of men's sports. And we've also seen Annika Sorenstam play against men in the PGA. She's played in one, maybe two tournaments when she was in her peak. Are we now to the point where maybe, I know Serena's a little older, but somebody of that caliber could probably go in there and take out some men in a tournament?
I think it's possible. I don't know, because of the women's, side is already so established. I don't know if they'd have a whole lot of desire to go into the men's section, but I think that they could. I think a peak Serena could do some serious damage in the men's side for sure.
She did win our greatest women's tennis player debate, so
Yeah.
highly possible. All right, let's just move on to our honorable mentions, guys. Try and keep it at 1 minute. We'll start out with yours, Paul.
Okay, I got Arthur Ashe. You're talking basically about the Jackie Robinson of tennis. He started playing tennis early on because his dad got stationed, took a post in Brookfield in 47, and had tennis courts on there. So he played, he became really well, and you're talking about somebody who's got a lot of highlights here for African Americans: 3 Grand Slam wins, 18 doubles titles, 2 Grand Slam doubles titles. He was the first black player selected to the United States Davis Cup team and had wins in the Davis Cup in 63, 68, 69, and 70. He was the only black man ever to win the singles title at Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the Australian Open. He did a lot of good in retirement as well. He retired in 80. He was elected in the Hall of Fame in 85, but in his retirement in 80, he wrote for Time Magazine, the Washington Post, and commented for ABC Sports and HBO. Actually, he did it from 80 until a few months before he died, and he founded the National Junior Tennis League and served as captain of the U.S. Davis Cup team from 81 to 85. Just a real landmark type of athlete that kind of paved the way for other African Americans in the future.
Kevin?
Yeah, 2013 Wimbledon, Andy Murray's victory over his rival Djokovic. Another Wimbledon final with 2 top-ranked players at the time. This was their 4th time in a Grand Slam final against each other. Match was just over 3 hours. Andy Murray swept him, beat him 3 straight sets, defeating the number 1 ranked Djokovic. Murray became the first British man since 1936 to win the Wimbledon title, and the first Scottish man since 1896 to win the title. This match peaked at over 17 million viewers in the United Kingdom. This was one of the greatest drought-ending wins in sports history. The country rallied behind it. One of the BBC sports reporters, said this was the holy grail of British sport. It dominated pretty much all the British newspapers. It was on the front page of Serbia's 2 biggest newspapers, dominated the sports section of the New York Times, and it dominated Australia's Sydney Morning Herald. Definitely deserves an honorable mention. Broke that drought, one of the longest droughts in sports history. It was good times for the United Kingdom.
Shut down all of England for that one. It was so big.
Yep.
Brian, go ahead.
Okay, 1988 Wimbledon finals, Navratilova versus Graf. Navratilova she was the established star, considered by many to be the best women's player ever. Steffi Graf was 12 years younger than Martina. She was a rising star, but she had yet to have beaten Martina in a major. And Martina had beaten her rather easily in the 87 Wimbledon and the 87 U.S. Open, both 2 sets. But after dropping the first set 7-5, Steffi Graf roared back, winning 6-2 and then 6-1, kind of indicating a changing of the guard or a shift in the balance of power for women's tennis.
Huge match. Definitely passing of the torch, like we've been talking about a couple others tonight. And our final one, that's me. I'm representing Andre Agassi, his retirement speech. I don't think there's anybody, at least especially at that time, that transcended the sport more than Andre Agassi. He took it mainstream. You know, now it's Serena has done that, but Agassi was really the first to do it. I'm just going to read his speech. It's really short, but it's that good. He's getting a standing ovation after losing in the third round. He's crying the whole time during this. And he says, the scoreboard said I lost today, but what it doesn't say is what I found. Over the last 21 years, I found loyalty. You pulled for me on the court and also in life. If you know about his life, read his book, crazy stuff. I found inspiration. You willed me to exceed even in my lowest moments, and I found generosity. You have given me your shoulders to stand on to reach for my dreams, dreams I could never have reached without you. Over the last 21 years, I have found you, and I will take that memory with me the rest of my life. Just some beautiful words. Great tennis player, my favorite player of all time. So let's move on to our vote. Paul, you're in my upper corner. Of the four, who are you taking? Can't vote for your own, guys.
I know I can't vote for my own, so I'm going to trick you, and I'm going to vote for yours because yours is mine. Billie Jean King, baby, forever.
That WTT one. All right, Brian.
I'm going to go for the battle of the sexes just because of what it meant, whether staged or not. I mean, it just put the women's tennis and even women's athletes sort of on the map. So gained a lot of momentum from that.
Kevin?
I got to go with Borg and McEnroe. I love the rivalry stories. Does a lot for sports.
I'm also going to go with the battle of sexes. I know we weren't alive at that time, but I know how big it was. I really do. And I've seen the movie. I've read the books. Incredible moment in tennis history. And to have a woman up against a male at that time period, that is society changing, in my opinion. Gretchen, your vote.
Reason.
Well, I have to go with Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs just because it changed my life, and I think the tennis matches run together, and but that one it'll never die. And I just give a plug for the PBS has a couple stories about Billie Jean King, and one I think is called Makers, and it tells the story of the match, and it's a really beautiful rendition of the social history behind the match, and I think it's really valuable.
Did you think the movie was pretty accurate in how it portrayed Billie Jean King?
I didn't love the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't love the movie. I've read a lot of books about the match, and I've kind of lived it, and I thought there was. It kind of went into its political stuff and the romance stuff. I just, I wanted it to be about tennis. Of course, as a tennis geek, the girl that played Billie, she had like a modern forehand and had all this topspin. Like there was just some things that irritated me. But, I love that they told the story about tennis and Billie and there's those characters. I don't know if you guys know this, but those 9 women that started the Virginia Slims tour are being inducted into the Hall of Fame this summer. So, they've been honored on the Tennis Channel, etc. So they're being lifted up, and they're all took a lot of chances in life, and traveling around the world, and that in the 70s was for a woman was very unheard of, really. So they used to go, they'd go to the grocery store and give out tickets, and, they really had to sell that it was worth watching, that their matches were worth watching. So, they, like Andre said, we stand on their shoulders. And, whenever I see Billie or Val Ziegenfuss or Carrie Melville or any of those 9, I thank them for my life, because I've been able to have a life in sports. And just growing up in Pittsburgh and, loving the Steelers and the Penguins and the Pirates, and, to play the sport I love my whole life is, it's a gift that I wouldn't have had without Billie, and Bobby too. Bobby, he was the big player in that as well. So
a win for the battle of the sexes. Let's move into our Q&A. Brian, go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that now you're into tennis coaching. So What do you
Yes.
find? What do you find most challenging, and what do you find most rewarding about coaching tennis?
Well, I'd say most challenging is living up to my coaches that I've had. I was just in Pittsburgh last week to visit my mom and family, and I got to go see my high school tennis coach, Mr. Stahl from Mount Lebanon High School. And I just think, the teachers and coaches just have changed my life. And I know that. And, the kids are different today, just like the Rolling Stones said, right? They've got this apparatus in their hand that knows more than I do. It knows where, it doesn't make U-turns, and it doesn't, it knows everything. And you can see every tennis stroke that's ever been hit, right, on YouTube. But I think just living up to the coaches I've had, I have a strong desire to give back to the sport and to young people. And right now I'm at a women's college. So, the emphasis is on leadership for young women, which I totally believe in. So I think it's just, reaching this younger generation. They have so much information at their fingertips, and, being relevant to their lives. I think that's my biggest challenge. Like, I used to just, go take tennis lessons and just was all ears, and I thought I knew nothing, right? And the students today, they know a lot, So I said that's my hardest thing. What I love most about it is just being around the sport and just knowing that tennis can change people's lives. Just the confidence it gives you, and the you learn you never give up in life, because tennis, we don't have a timer. Like you were talking about those long matches.
Right.
They should have given up. They were match point against, and they came back and won, and we can do that, just despite the adversity that we're all going to have in life. You just bear down, and you gather yourself, and you go back out there. So those are the kind of lessons I would like to pass on. And I think it's my honor, and it's my, privilege or my responsibility to pass those lessons on. Whether the kids want to hear them or I can say them in a way they want to hear it, that's my challenge. So.
Paul, go ahead.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm all in on Billie Jean King. So I'm going to ask you, if you could Billie Jean King a man, I'm not asking you to declare victory or guarantee one, but what man would you have picked to play? Was there somebody out there you thought you'd match up well against, or you're a fan of somebody?
Oh, if I had to play against a man,
Yeah.
my brother, it would absolutely be my brother. I
All right.
almost beat him once. He was playing tennis. He played hockey and tennis at Penn State, and I was probably one of the top 5 junior women tennis players in America. And I was probably 18. He was probably 21. And I've never beaten my brother in anything that I recall ever. And we were playing at the Bubbles in Mount Lebanon. He came home from college, and it was like 3-2 or 4-3 for him, but I was close to him, and he started getting mad and hitting the ball against the bubble, and that was the last time we ever played. So if I could ever play a match I think Billy and Bobby played for $100,000 or something, I'd play my brother, and I bet you he'd beat me.
Kevin.
He's not famous, but it would be fun in our family.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your titles that you played in. It seems like you were most successful on hard courts.
Yes, and in far-flung places that no one else would go to. That's where I usually did well. So,
was there
Schenectady, New York, and those kind of places.
Was there a type of court that you preferred, and like what's the difference?
I love playing Wimbledon. I tell whenever I get to talk to young people, all these commencement speeches and stuff, they always say to dream big. You'll never you have to dream bigger than you could possibly think. And like to think, I grew up in Pittsburgh just like you guys, but to think that I played in 20 Wimbledons, I'd kind of put on my dream list, I wanted to play pro tennis, right? That's all my brain could comprehend. We had the Virginia Slims of Pittsburgh come to Monroeville, and I got to play in the qualifyings or something. And, I just wanted to play. I just wanted to go play, but to get to go to Wimbledon 20 times and, watch those famous matches play, I got to play on center court against Martina Navratilova, which, sounds really great, but you actually don't want to play Martina on center court. It's not that fun. So, but to all the things I was able to do, it's miraculous. It's like reading someone else's book. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
You're good.
it's incredible, right? To play your sport and to have your to have your day to play against people in the world was just, it's like crazy. I have a great example. I don't know if this is even close to the question you asked, but do you guys remember who Dave Dravecky was?
Yeah.
I think he's still alive. But
Yeah.
he was a pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, and he had bone cancer, and he came back. He came all the way back, and he threw the pitch, and his like shoulder shattered on TV. Do you guys remember that? You were probably 4 years old.
Yeah, he had to get his arm amputated, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
He's an incredible guy. He was an incredible guy. And anyway, I tell the story because he says the way he describes his pro career is like they filled up San Francisco Stadium with every little kid that played baseball, and they called one name and they said, Dave Dravecky, come down and play. You come down and pitch for the San Francisco Giants. And I feel like it was exactly the same. Like they filled up Three Rivers Stadium or the US Open Stadium, and every little girl's dressed up, every little girl that plays tennis, and they called one name to come down and play, and they called my name. And I feel exactly like that. There's so many people that practice harder or had more talent or had more lessons, but I was blessed to get the chance. So I'm very grateful for it. What was the question?
It was,
don't worry. We'll move on to the next one. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. We'll edit that out. I don't know. That was
No, that was good.
I'm watching the sunset too. You guys got to see this. I don't know if you can see it, but
I can see it. It's beautiful.
It's unbelievable.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you can see it. It's like orange and purple. So I got a little distracted in the middle of that.
So you went into my question a little bit. I want to know what you have to do to mentally prepare to play Martina on center court in a finals.
Yeah, I didn't do a very good job. I was totally overwhelmed with the whole situation. And, I was playing really well. It was probably, I peaked really young. Like when I was like 18 or 19, I got to do well at like the US Open and French Open. And then kind of as my career was kind of getting down, I had a couple other good years. But it's a grind, and it's hard to string matches together. But, I love playing on grass. Is that the question? What tournament? I like to play on grass. Yeah. That was it. I like to play on grass. You can help me out with that, Michael. Yeah, I love playing Wimbledon. Wimbledon's is the best. I just was overwhelmed with the whole thing. You get interviewed before you go out on the court. You have to go in this little anti-room. I don't know if that's what you call it, but this little room where you wait. And Boris Becker came by, and he's like, "Oh, you'll do fine." I'm like, "Yeah, right." He's like, "You look really scared." I was like, "No, I kind of am." And I had to curtsy and do all this stuff, and she was just so much better than me, and it was, it wasn't a fair fight, but I'm grateful for that I got to play her. But yeah, there was some moments in there where I just kind of wanted to go, kind of sneak off the court and walk off the court and just go home, but. Anyway, it was, you don't want to play Martina in anything like Tiddly or checker. She'll kick your butt in just about anything.
Well, thank you, Gretchen, for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming on. I want to thank everyone
you guys
who was
were
watching
awesome.
too. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. Always nice to talk to a fellow Pittsburgher.
Well, I'd love to turn this conversation around and ask you guys some of those questions, but
we can do another show and do that. But you don't want to hear what some of the stuff Kevin has to say. Ooh.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I'd like to talk about your sports. I bet you guys got some great stories. All right.
A few.
I'm going to walk you guys up. I'm going to try to flip this around.